Quilter's newsletter, Machine Quilting Tips and Techniques, is brought to you by Bernina, Made to Create, and Benartex, Fabric for Quilters by Quilters.
Hi, this is Connie Fanders, and this is Quilter's newsletter, Machine Quilting Tips and Techniques with Bernina. And today I'm going to talk about top stitching. Top stitching is a row of stitching that you see on the top of your fabric that is often on quilted bags, on totes such as this, or even placemats. And it is a lot of times done with a heavier thread, or sometimes it is stitched over several times to look like a heavier thread. So I'm going to go over those techniques with you today. To begin with, we're going to do it with a heavy thread, and I have a 12-weight cotton thread in the sewing machine to start with. In order to use the heavyweight thread, we're going to be using a top stitch needle. A top stitch needle is a needle that has a larger eye in it, so it will accommodate the heavier weight threads. So I have a top stitching needle in my thread, and it threaded with the heavy 12-weight cotton thread, and now I'm going to set up my machine. For the first stitch, I'm going to select a straight stitch. For top stitching with a heavier thread, I do want a longer length stitch, so I'm going to lengthen my stitch length to 3. And on this particular stitch, I am also going to move my needle position over 2 places to the left. The reason that I move the needle position over 2 spaces to the left is because of the pressure foot that I am using. This foot has a guide on front of it that I can use to guide right down the edge of my fabric. Therefore, it's going to guide my stitching perfectly straight. So to begin to sew, we simply place the folded edge of the fabric along the blade of the foot, and it's very simple and very easy to do that row of top stitching. And here you can see how perfectly straight the top stitching is by using the guide of the edge stitch foot. Now I'm going to show you how to do top stitching with just a regular weight polyester thread. The polyester thread, if we just do a single row of stitching, isn't going to show up as nicely or as heavily as a heavier top stitch thread. So I'm going to look at my machine and choose a different decorative stitch that will give me that same look. So on our machine, some machines do have the choice of doing a triple straight stitch, which is a beautiful stitch for top stitching. Or on this particular machine, we have a stitch here that is made just for top stitching. So I've selected my stitch, and again I'm going to move my needle position 2 spaces over to the left. And after I have my needle position moved over, I'm ready to position my fabric next to the blade of my foot and start to sew. And you will see how the machine is going forward and backwards. So what it is doing, it is actually stitching over this stitch 3 times in order to give it the heavy look that we like to see on top stitching. Now that our stitching is done, let's compare it to the row we just completed. You can see the new row is a very heavy look, even though it was done with just regular polyester thread. But it is still, both are still a very beautiful top stitched look. When you're doing a project such as this, and you are doing top stitching, you do not want to take any back stitches. What you'll want to do is bring your threads to the inside of your project and do a knot on the inside. Therefore, your top stitching will look smooth and nice all the way around. And that's it. Thank you for joining us today, and please join us for more tips.
Quilter's newsletter, Machine Quilting Tips and Techniques, is brought to you by Bernina, Made to Create, and Benartex, Fabric for Quilters by Quilters.